Welcome to our deep dive today.
Okay.
We're going to be exploring ancient Indian philosophy
Sounds good.
uh, through this really interesting book, Faith Book 6.
Okay.
It's written by Shri, Suresh, Kumar, Makam,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a disciple of the revered Shri Raghavendra Rao Sahib.
Okay.
So we're going to be calling him Shri Suresh throughout this.
Makes sense.
So this book offers, I think, a very unique perspective on some pretty timeless questions.
Yeah, it really does. And, before we even get into the text itself,
Okay.
Shri Suresh includes this disclaimer at the beginning. I think it kind of sets the tone beautifully for the whole thing.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, he says, cleanse your manas, that's mind,
Okay.
with the practice of satana, and then go through literature, otherwise reality will be lost upon you.
Wow. That's quite a statement, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like he's saying you need the right kind of preparation to even begin to grasp what he's trying to convey.
Exactly. It's not just about reading the words, right?
Yeah.
You need an active mind, a prepared mind. He even says a mind that's been cleansed through spiritual practice.
Oh, that's so interesting. So it's not just about intellectual understanding. It's about having the right kind of inner receptivity.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that's what I find fascinating about this right from the start. It challenges us to consider how we even approach learning and knowledge in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. So to give our listeners a bit of background here, this book is actually part of a much larger work that's attributed to the sage Valmiki. So think epic poetry, ancient India, kings and sages, and big existential questions that have captivated humans for centuries, really.
Yeah, and even though we're just focusing on this particular book, I think you'll get a sense of the depth and scope of these ancient teachings really quickly.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we're transported to King Dasaratha's court, where the sage Vasishta is delivering a sermon. The scene is so vividly described, even the princesses who, are accustomed to a life of luxury are completely engrossed. It really highlights the power of the Vasishta's words.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, what it must have been like to be present in that moment, to actually, feel the weight of those ancient teachings firsthand.
Right.
For our listener, it's that reminder that the power of words and storytelling, it transcends time and culture.
Absolutely. Then we meet Rama. He's a prince who's clearly grappling with some deep questions, about life, death, the nature of the mind, and this whole illusion that we call the world.
I find it so relatable that even a prince, someone who seemingly has everything, is wrestling with these human dilemmas.
Yeah.
It shows that these questions are really inherent to the human experience, regardless of our social status or material possessions.
Right. It's that great reminder that we're all in this together, trying to make sense of this journey called life.
Yeah.
And one of the key themes that emerges early on is this idea of finding tranquility. Shri Suresh uses this beautiful analogy of a man being tossed around on the ocean
Right.
and finally finding peace in the still waters near the shore.
That's such a powerful image. It really speaks to our innate desire for peace
Right.
and stability in a world that often feels very chaotic
Yeah,
and unpredictable.
absolutely.
What are those still waters for you in your own life?
That's a great question. For me, it's definitely those moments of quiet reflection, whether it's through meditation or spending time in nature or even just listening to a piece of music that really moves me. It's about creating those mental spaces where I can disconnect from the noise and reconnect with myself.
Yeah, I think it's about cultivating that inner stillness,
Yeah.
a space of peace within no matter what's happening outside. And that's such a relevant skill to be building right now,
Oh, absolutely.
especially in today's world.
The text then goes into this idea of the soul being distinct from the body,
Okay.
and it uses the image of gold in a crucible. So the gold, representing the soul, remains pure and unaffected by the crucible, which symbolizes the body.
Okay.
It's a very striking way to convey this idea that our essence, our true selves, are eternal and unchanging, while the body is temporary.
It also hints at this concept of the divine spirit, which is separate from the individual soul, but also connected, like a lotus flower and the water.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's a beautiful way to illustrate the interconnectedness of all things.
Yeah.
The idea that we're all part of something larger than ourselves.
Right. So we're both unique individuals, but also part of this grand interconnected web.
And that brings us to this mind-bending concept of oneness with the Supreme Soul, this idea that everything is part of this ultimate unity.
Okay.
It's a challenging concept to grasp, but Shri Suresh uses some really compelling metaphors to try to illustrate it.
Like the analogy of frost being unable to exist in fire, suggesting that nothing can exist outside of this unity with the Supreme Soul.
Right, it challenges our everyday perception of reality, inviting us to consider this perspective that goes beyond our individual limited viewpoint.
It's like saying that at the deepest level, we're all connected. We're part of this one universal consciousness.
And that interconnectedness has really profound implications for how we understand ourselves and how we understand the world around us.
Absolutely. If we're all interconnected, then our actions have ripple effects. They impact not just ourselves, but the whole web of existence.
It's a reminder to live with greater awareness
Yeah,
and responsibility, recognizing that interconnectedness.
absolutely. Then there's this exploration of the cyclical nature of life and death. He uses the analogy of pearls being born in reeds.
Beautiful analogy.
It illustrates this idea that just as a pearl emerges from a reed, our current lives emerge from our past actions.
Right. Our past influences our present qualities. Our present actions shape our future.
Yeah, it's a concept that encourages reflection, like on the interconnectedness of our past, present, and future.
It also highlights the importance of detaching from the outcomes of our actions.
Oh, that's a tough one.
We have control over our actions, but not necessarily the results.
Yeah.
Right.
That is a tough one, but I can see how that could be quite liberating if we let go of the need to control the outcome.
Exactly.
We can focus on what we can control.
Right. Surrender to the flow of life, trusting that things unfold as they should.
Right. This beautifully leads into the next teaching, which focuses on the power of right reasoning.
Okay.
The book uses the analogy of rousing a deer from sleep to awaken the mind.
I love that analogy. Those aha moments when something finally clicks in our understanding.
It also emphasizes the importance of mentors or teachers in our learning journey.
Just as a guide might rouse a deer from slumber, a good teacher can awaken our minds to new perspectives and deeper understanding.
Think about the teachers who've had a profound impact on you, the ones who sparked your curiosity.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've been so fortunate to have incredible mentors throughout my life.
Me too.
It's a reminder to cherish those who have helped us on our path.
Absolutely. Now, this next metaphor is a bit of a wake-up call.
Okay.
It talks about forsaking the wish-fulfilling gem within our hearts to chase trifles outside. It's such a powerful image.
Yeah.
It reminds us that we so often seek fulfillment in external things, possessions, achievements, recognition,
Right.
while neglecting the true source of happiness within.
I think it challenges us to reflect on where we're putting our energy,
Yeah.
our attention. Are we chasing fleeting external rewards, or are we cultivating that inner gem of contentment and peace?
Makes you wonder how many of our pursuits are driven by this external seeking, rather than a genuine connection to our inner selves.
And that leads to the next teaching, which emphasizes the impermanence of everything.
Okay.
Shri Suresh uses this evocative image of Indras, these powerful kings, being swallowed up like bubbles in the ocean of eternity.
It's a stark reminder of the transient nature of everything,
Yeah.
even those things we might consider permanent.
Right. It challenges us to embrace change as a fundamental part of life, to recognize that nothing lasts forever, and to find peace in that understanding.
It also makes you consider your own experiences with loss and change.
Yeah.
How have you built with the impermanence of life?
Oh, it's a deep question. I appreciate you asking it. I think for me, it's been a gradual process of learning to accept change. To see it not as an end, but as a transformation, a new beginning.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
It speaks to this idea that even in loss, there's a possibility for growth
absolutely.
and renewal.
That's a powerful message of hope, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It reminds us that even when things fall apart, we have that inner strength to rebuild. The text then discusses how desires can deceive us,
Okay.
comparing them to monkeys being deluded by reflections.
Clever analogy.
Just as a monkey might reach for a reflection in the water, believing it to be a real fruit, we often chase after desires, mistaking these fleeting pleasures for true happiness.
It's a reminder to examine our desires carefully, to discern between those that lead to genuine fulfillment and those that keep us bound to a cycle of craving and dissatisfaction.
So it's about becoming more mindful of our desires and understanding their true nature.
Exactly. It's about cultivating discernment, the ability to see clearly and make choices that align with our highest good.
This leads us to the discussion on liberation from ego, which Sri Suresh illustrates using this powerful image of a spider caught in its own web.
Right, just as a spider becomes entangled in the web it has spun, we often become trapped by our own desires and attachments, creating unnecessary suffering for ourselves.
It's a reminder that our ego, with its constant need for validation and control, can be a major source of suffering.
Right, and this teaching encourages self-reflection, prompting us to consider how our ego might be limiting our potential for growth and happiness.
So it's about recognizing the ways in which we might be getting in our own way.
Precisely, moving beyond the confines of the ego and connecting with our true selves,
Right.
our essence, which is free.
And speaking of interconnectedness, this next section blew my mind. It's about the oneness of consciousness.
Okay.
Sri Suresh explains how everything, including you and me and our listener right now, are part of the same consciousness.
It's a profound concept, isn't it? It challenges our usual perception of ourselves as separate individuals,
Totally.
invites us to consider a more expansive view of reality.
He also points out that seeing consciousness as an object of thought is a trap. True understanding, he suggests, comes from directly experiencing this unity, not just thinking about it.
It's an invitation to move beyond intellectual concepts and engage in practices that allow us to experience this interconnectedness directly. Practices like meditation, mindfulness, cultivating a sense of compassion and connection with all beings.
So it's about embodying the understanding.
Exactly. Living the teachings, integrating them into our daily lives and allowing them to transform us from the inside out.
And then he goes even deeper into the nature of consciousness,
Okay.
explaining that it's the true reality and everything else is just a manifestation of it.
It's a radical shift in perspective. Instead of seeing the world as a collection of separate objects, he's suggesting that it's all an expression of this one underlying consciousness.
It's like the soul's a thread woven through all of existence, connecting everything together.
That's a beautiful way to visualize it, emphasizes the interconnectedness of all things.
And that interconnectedness has profound implications for how we live our lives and interact with the world around us.
It's a call to live with greater awareness, compassion, and responsibility.
This understanding then leads naturally to the importance of detaching from desires to achieve liberation.
Sri Suresh uses some vivid imagery to illustrate this point, comparing those who are free from desires to mountains that don't need rain to survive.
Suggests that true liberation comes from within, from cultivating a sense of inner fulfillment that's not dependent on fleeting pleasures or external validation.
Right. It's about finding that wellspring of contentment and peace within ourselves.
And that's a powerful message, isn't it?
It is. It reminds us that true happiness and freedom, they're not things we need to acquire or achieve. They're already present within us.
So it's about removing the obstacles,
Exactly.
the attachments and desires that are blocking our access to that inner peace.
And that's where the concept of samadhi comes in. He describes it as a state of profound stillness, where the mind becomes like a fixed rock, unwavering against the winds of passion.
It sounds incredibly peaceful.
Yeah, a state of deep inner peace and tranquility, a state of being fully present and aware without being caught up in the fluctuations of the mind.
And this state of samadhi is said to be accessible to anyone.
That's right. Sri Suresh emphasizes that liberation is not just for a select few. It's available to anyone who is willing to commit to the path of self-discovery and spiritual growth.
It's a message of hope and empowerment.
Absolutely.
A reminder that we all have the potential to awaken to our true nature and experience lasting peace and happiness.
The power to transform our lives lies within us.
And that's an inspiring thought to carry with us as we navigate the complexities of life. We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
From the nature of the soul and the quest for tranquility to the power of right reasoning and the deceptive nature of desire.
We've seen how these ancient teachings use such vivid imagery and metaphors to bring these concepts to life.
It's amazing how relevant these teachings still are today. They offer such profound insights into the human experience and provide practical guidance for navigating the challenges of life.
And they remind us that the journey of self-discovery is a lifelong adventure, one that's filled with challenges and rewards, insights, and transformations. You know, it's fascinating how these teachings weave together like practical advice with these grand philosophical concepts.
Yeah, and speaking of practical advice, One of the things that keeps coming up is this idea of discrimination,
Right.
not in the, social sense, but in terms of discerning between the real and the unreal,
Mm-hmm.
the permanent and the impermanent.
Shri Suresh suggests that cultivating this ability to discriminate, that's essential for finding true peace.
Yeah, it's like we need to develop this inner radar
Right.
that can detect what's truly valuable and lasting.
Amidst all the distractions.
Yeah, all the fleeting pleasures that surround us.
He uses a really powerful image. He compares desires to black serpents creeping in the heart.
Ooh, that's intense. It really highlights the potential danger of unchecked desires, doesn't it?
It
Makes you think about how often we get caught up in wanting things, believing that they'll bring us happiness, only to find the satisfaction is temporary.
It speaks to the deceptive nature of desire. We chase after things, thinking they'll fill a void within us, but true fulfillment comes from a different source altogether.
So it's not about suppressing our desires,
Yeah.
but about understanding their true nature and choosing those that align with our highest good.
Precisely. It's about cultivating awareness and making conscious choices, rather than being driven by unconscious cravings.
This brings us to another key, teaching the idea that the mind can be both our greatest liberator and our greatest enemy.
Sri Suresh doesn't shy away from the power of the mind. He compares it to, like, a double-edged sword,
Yeah.
capable of creating both immense happiness and profound suffering.
So it's all about how we use it. It makes me think about those times when I've gotten caught in a spiral of negative thoughts, and it's like my mind is working against me.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
But the good news is that these teachings offer practical guidance on how to master the mind,
Okay.
to train it to be an ally rather than an adversary.
One of the key techniques he emphasizes is, of course, meditation.
Meditation's like a mental gym, isn't it? It allows us to strengthen our focus, cultivate awareness, gain insight into the nature of our thoughts
Yeah.
and our emotions.
It's about creating that space between our thoughts and our awareness, so we're not so identified with every thought that pops into our heads.
Cultivating that observer self,
Yeah.
that part of us that can witness our thoughts and emotions without getting caught up in them.
He also talks about the importance of right reasoning as a means of mastering the mind.
Right. Reasoning is about using our intelligence to discern truth from falsehood, to see things clearly and make wise choices.
So it's not just about having knowledge,
Right.
but about applying that knowledge in a way that leads to greater understanding and well-being.
And that right reasoning is closely tied to the practice of self-inquiry.
Okay.
It's about questioning our assumptions, our beliefs,
Yeah.
digging deeper, uncovering the truth that lies beneath the surface.
It's like we're on this constant quest to understand ourselves and the world around us, and right reasoning is the compass that guides us.
It's about cultivating a curious mind, an open mind,
Yeah.
a mind that's willing to challenge its own limitations and expand its horizons.
Another interesting aspect of these teachings is the emphasis on cultivating virtues like compassion, kindness, and nonviolence. It's not just about personal liberation, but also about creating a more harmonious and just world.
That's a key point. These teachings connect our inner transformation with our outer actions. They suggest that true liberation encompasses both personal enlightenment and a commitment to the well-being of all beings.
It's like recognizing that we're all interconnected, and our actions have a ripple effect on the world around us.
And that interconnectedness calls us to act with greater compassion and responsibility.
One of the stories that really illustrates this connection between inner and outer peace is the story of Bali, the demon king who sought liberation.
Oh, that story always fascinates me. Challenges our preconceived notions about good and evil,
Right.
showing that even a demon king can have a yearning for spiritual growth.
Yeah, it's a reminder that the desire for transformation can arise in anyone, regardless of their background
Right.
or their past actions.
And Bali's story highlights the transformative power of these teachings. He learns the importance of conquering the mind through detachment and self-control. And this inner transformation leads to a dramatic shift in his behavior, from a tyrannical ruler to a benevolent king.
Yeah, it's a powerful example of how interchange can create positive change in the world. It makes me wonder, what are some of the ways our listeners might apply these teachings to their own lives?
That's a great question. I think the beauty of these teachings is that they offer guidance for every aspect of our lives, whether it's dealing with difficult emotions, navigating relationships, or making important decisions. These principles can help us to live with greater awareness, compassion, and purpose.
It's about cultivating that inner stillness,
Right.
that connection to our true selves, and then letting that wisdom guide our actions in the world.
And it's a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
One that's filled with challenges and triumphs, setbacks and breakthroughs, but the rewards are immeasurable. Greater peace, happiness, and a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
I'm also really struck by the emphasis on direct experience as the source of true knowledge. Shri says that intellectual understanding alone isn't enough. It's like reading a recipe for a delicious meal, but never actually tasting it.
He's not dismissing the value of intellectual knowledge,
Right.
but he's emphasizing that true transformation comes from embodying the teachings, from experiencing them directly.
So it's about putting the teachings into practice, integrating them into our daily lives, and allowing them to transform us from the inside out.
Exactly, moving from the theoretical to the experiential.
He also talks about this concept of samadhi, a state of deep meditative absorption, where the mind becomes still and one experiences a profound sense of peace and unity.
Samadhi is described as the ultimate goal of spiritual practice, a state of complete liberation from suffering and identification with the ego.
It sounds almost like a mystical experience.
It's described as a state of ineffable peace, joy, and clarity, a state of being fully present and aware without any sense of separation or duality, experiencing the oneness of all things directly.
And this state of samadhi is said to be accessible to anyone who is willing to put in the effort.
That's what's so inspiring about these teachings. Sri Suresh emphasizes that liberation is not just for a select few, but it's available to anyone who is willing to commit to the path of self-discovery and spiritual growth. It's a reminder that we all have the potential to awaken to our true nature and experience this profound sense of peace and unity.
I love that it's a message of hope
Absolutely.
and empowerment.
It's a call to action, an invitation to embark on this incredible journey of self-discovery and transformation.
You know, one of the things that has really stuck with me through all of this is this idea of Maya,
Oh, yeah.
this illusion of the world. It's a concept that keeps coming up, and it's really challenging,
Absolutely.
to our everyday perception of reality.
It's a fundamental concept in many Indian philosophical traditions.
Yeah.
Maya refers to the way our senses and our minds can kind of deceive us, leading us to believe that the world of appearances is real,
Right.
when in fact it's constantly changing and ultimately illusory.
It's like we're caught in this web of perceptions, mistaking the map for the territory.
Exactly.
We get so attached to our version of reality, our stories, our beliefs, we forget that it's just a limited perspective.
And Sri Suresh really emphasizes the importance of recognizing this illusion, seeing through that veil of Maya to perceive the true nature of reality.
So what is the true nature of reality, according to these teachings?
The true nature of reality is consciousness,
Okay.
pure awareness. It's the underlying ground of being from which everything arises, the unchanging essence that permeates all things.
It's like saying that consciousness is the fundamental reality, and everything else is just a wave on the surface of that ocean of awareness.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
And once we recognize this,
Yeah.
we can start to shift our perspective and
Yeah.
see the world in a whole new light.
It makes me think about all the times I've gotten caught up in the drama of life, taking things so personally and believing that my problems were the center of the universe. Now I'm realizing how much of that was just my own mind creating that drama.
It's a common human experience to identify with our thoughts and feelings and believe that they define who we are, but these teachings suggest that we're so much more than that. We are that pure consciousness, that awareness that's beyond all limitations and conditioning.
It's like we're identifying with the waves instead of recognizing the vastness of the ocean.
Exactly. And once we realize this, we can start to let go of our attachments to those things that cause us suffering.
Right.
We can see that our true nature is free, limitless.
It sounds like a truly liberating experience.
It is. And it's not something that requires special powers or abilities.
Right.
This freedom is available to anyone who's willing to do the inner work, cultivate awareness, and detach from the illusion of the ego.
So how do we actually access this freedom, this deeper understanding of ourselves and the nature of reality?
Sri Suresh outlines various practices
All right.
and techniques throughout the book.
Okay.
Things like meditation, self-inquiry, and cultivating virtues like compassion and non-attachment.
So it's about aligning ourselves with our true nature, with that pure consciousness that is our essence.
Precisely. And this alignment brings about a profound sense of peace and joy and fulfillment that's independent of external circumstances.
It's like discovering an inner wellspring of joy that can never be depleted. It reminds me of the story of Bali, the demon king,
Hmm.
who, despite all his power and possessions, was seeking something more. He recognized that true fulfillment wasn't to be found in those external conquests, but in that inner transformation.
His story is such a powerful reminder that the desire for liberation can arise in anyone, regardless of their background or past actions.
It's a message of hope and possibility.
Absolutely. These teachings offer a path to freedom and fulfillment, a way to navigate the complexities of life with greater wisdom, compassion, and peace.
We've covered so much ground in this deep dive into Faith Book 6. Exploring these profound concepts, like the nature of the soul, the power of the mind, this illusion of Maya, the path to liberation. Shri Suresh has provided a roadmap for inner transformation,
He has.
and your insights have been invaluable in guiding us through these profound teachings.
It's been an honor to share this exploration with you and our listeners.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question inspired by Shri Suresh's words. If the world is truly an illusion, as these teachings suggest, what does that mean for how we live our lives? How might that understanding shift our perspective, our choices, our interactions with the world?
That's a beautiful question, and one that each of us must answer for ourselves. It's an invitation to embark on our own journey of self-discovery, to explore these teachings and to see how they resonate with our own experiences.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the wisdom of ancient India. We hope you found it as enriching and inspiring as we have. Until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep the conversation going.